and welcome to my channel. I'm so excited to finally be launching this. So the purpose of this video really is to introduce you to my channel, introduce you to myself, let you know what I've got planned coming up. So let's get into it.
So somehow I forgot to introduce my actual name. So my name is Andrea, Andrea Yanka, or Ama Yanka. So welcome to my channel.
So for those of you who have been following me on other platforms, you're probably wondering where have I been? Well, in the month of December, I decided to take a break just to kind of recalibrate, get my mind together, kind of take stock of where I had come since I launched my program in the summer, and kind of just look at the way to bring it to the next level, really. And that break was meant to go up until the 1st of January, 2nd of January, actually, because I was going to do a whole relaunch on my birthday. And I think as I took that break and as I kind of began to reflect on the process and where I had come from and what I had achieved and what was yet to do, there was a bit of a blockage. Like I was trying to figure out what the blockage was, that there was a barrier, there was a tension there that wasn't really kind of fitting in and working with me. So I decided to kind of just sit with that and kind of just review my thoughts and my reflections and kind of see where all of that is going. So as I did that, I kind of came to the realization that the blockage that I was having was that I was trying to keep all these different parts of me separate. My spirituality, my philosophy, the work that I'm doing, my personal life, I kind of had put them into all these different boxes. And that's where the lack of synergy was and what I was doing. Like I felt like I was being, I don't know, I felt like I was limited in every area. And I had a lot of anxiety around kind of the right way to appear online and the right way to kind of share my message and the right way to do this and how other people are going to perceive it. These are all things that I'm going to talk about over the course of my channel, but that process really made me step back and reflect. And actually, nothing that I do happens in isolation. So much of my spiritual work, much of my academic work, much of my work with the community are all actually interlinked, and they're all kind of underpinned by the same goal. And if I was to kind of put that goal in a sentence, I guess I would describe it as like a liberation of consciousness, right? Because what my whole journey has taught me, both academically and spiritually and in life, is that there are real significant barriers to people kind of reaching their full potential. And those barriers are intentional. Those barriers did not just come, like people actually planned for these barriers. They planned for these limitations to be placed on certain people. And for me, it's like actually those of us who have an awareness or an insight into one particular area should work to bring other people to that awareness in that same area. And I think if everybody did that, then the world would become a better place. But for me, my heart is really in Africa. And there's a whole thing that's attached to that, which again, I'm going to talk about in my video. So all of that kind of fed into me rebranding my entire program, which is what then led to a further delay, because actually I had done so much work on the website and automating this and automating that. And trying to kind of like put all these different programs together whilst I'm still doing my PhD and moving, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff attached to that. And to actually kind of just delete all of that was a whole other thing. But deleting it is one thing. Deleting is easy. It's a button, right? But then you have to then rebuild. So all the planning that went into the rebuilding of that then took time. And I also realized the importance of just flowing, right? So like occasionally there are times where you need a deadline and you need to kind of do this by this particular date. But that doesn't have to be how I run my life. And actually I realized that when I allow myself to flow, what I produce is actually excellent. Whereas when I put myself in a box, which again, is a whole bunch of other stuff in terms of my own personal growth that I'm going to talk about. So that's where I've been. And, you know, I really want to thank everybody for continuing to support me. People have still been sharing my stuff. People randomly recognize me, which is like, I can't even get over that. People have still been commenting and DMing me and sending me stuff, and I really, really appreciate all of you guys who are still standing with me. So yeah, that's the introduction. I didn't mean for it to be that long, but there we go. So my channel really has two main goals. The first goal is for education and the second goal is for documentation. So for those of you who don't know, I work in a university. So I teach undergraduate and master students kind of education courses. And my thing really has been to try and bring that knowledge to people who need it. One of the biggest challenges that I have as an academic is the realization of how information is suppressed and it doesn't need to be. My biggest thing is that there are people who need certain bits of information that don't even know how to find it, don't even have access to it, even if they could find it. And all of these things contribute to the limitations that are placed on certain societies and certain people, certain groups of people. And I'm talking obviously specifically in Africa and for African youth and for the future generations. So the first purpose of my channel is education. So I'm going to share a lot of these things with you, research and theory that will help you to kind of make changes in your own life. My stuff is geared and centered around education. So it's mainly for parents in terms of facilitating your children's education and also how you as a parent are relating to your child. I know there are lots of people who are doing the inner work. Like there are lots of people who are trying to unlearn a whole bunch of stuff, trying to be healthy and to evolve their own consciousness. And it's great and I love to see it. And I think one of the things that has the tendency or the potential to fall by the wayside is kind of, whilst we're all kind of living these very active lives, become passive parents in some way, shape or form. And my big thing is really that whilst you are unlearning, you should also make sure that your child doesn't have to learn the things that you had to unlearn, right? So you are going through this whole process of unlearning all of this stuff, becoming a better person holistically, spiritually, etc. You should also make sure that you are providing the space for your child to not have to unlearn all of those things, right? And providing the space for your child to discover who they are, their true self, their true gifts, and you providing the opportunities and environments for those things to thrive. And that's what the bulk of my advice is going to be on. And then if you want one-to-one support, then you can contact me for that one-to-one support to kind of implement that. But I'll talk about that at a later date. So you might also be an educator, and you can be a formal or an informal educator. So like a teacher, or maybe somebody who just does a lot of work in the community. You might be somebody who kind of just goes out and talks to people. Regardless, you have a goal, you have a purpose, what we call pedagogy. You have your own pedagogy that you want to kind of drive forward. Most people, when they go through teacher training, they're not really encouraged to act out or live out their own pedagogy. They end up kind of just regurgitating what they have been taught, which feeds into the passiveness of society and how all of these things contribute to the collective demise, so to speak. So if you're an educator and you're going through that consciousness and you actually want to see how you can use that and apply that in your practice without kind of potentially ruffling too many feathers. If you want to ruffle feathers, I'm here for ruffling feathers. If you've ever been taught by me, you know that I have no issue with ruffling feathers. However, you might not want to ruffle feathers. You just might want to kind of keep your head down and do the amazing work that you're doing. So wherever you are in that spectrum, again, my content kind of talks about that and kind of gives you the tips to kind of implement that. And just as a general individual, so if you're a young person and you're thinking about how can you use your gifts and your strengths to improve your community, again, that's what my content is about. My overall goal is to kind of provide people, and I always use this term, opportunities and environments, right? Education isn't about you repeating something that you have been taught. Education isn't something about you storing all of this information in your head. Education should equip you to do the things that you want to do in a particular moment. So you should have the knowledge and skills to find out the information that you need. We don't live in a world anymore where you need to memorize all of this information, because most people just have their information at their fingertips on their phone. The issue we have is many of us in our communities, especially in Africa, or I should say Ghana, especially in Ghana, is the youth are spending a lot of their time on their phone doing nonsense, right? And all of this again speaks to much broader issues. You might not be familiar with this thing, but there's other countries who have altered the algorithms for what their youth see. our youth do things like dance on TikTok and all of these things, rather than actually addressing the issues in their communities and in their societies. And all of these things are part of the plan. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's not that people are kind of like accidentally creating these structures, it's intentional. So if we want to live better lives, we have to be intentional in kind of creating that. So my overall goal with all the work that I do, and throughout the videos, I'm going to break down what the work that I do is and how it's going to kind of manifest while I'm here in Ghana. But it's all towards that. It's all towards the collective liberation of all of our consciousness. So in that, I'm going to also talk about my own evolution and the things that I have been looking into, the things that have helped me, and how I kind of reconcile that kind of researching spirituality, like honestly, outside of a colonial lens, and the challenges that I have faced with that mentally. So I'm going to also be covering that. So yeah, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around. Make sure you subscribe if you're interested. If you have any topics that you want me to cover, please just drop a comment in the box below and I'll do my best to cover all of them. So I'll see you soon.